Today we're going to be making homemade wine that is delicious, strong, and could not be easier, and it only has 3 ingredients. Stay tuned. But before we get started, if you're new here, please consider subscribing if you're interested in money, time, energy, or sanity saving tips, and click the bell notification so that you won't miss anything. And if you like to read, please check out my award-winning novels, Think Nicholas Sparks Meets Jodi Picoult, linked below. We're going to start with just juice. Make sure it is 100% juice. It can be from concentrate, that's fine, but you don't want preservatives. Doing cranberry. I've done cranberry before, and I really love the way this one tastes. This one, it's so sweet and delicious. And this is, Welch's is a great brand to use. I'm not getting a kickback from them. They just have 100% juice. Just make sure it's 100% juice. So we're doing this. This is a lot bigger, as you can see, than this, but that's fine. And then I'm gonna go ahead and try a pineapple today. So then you also need sugar, some regular pure cane sugar or white sugar, it doesn't matter. And then these are packets of yeast. This is wine yeast. They also have champagne yeast. You can use either of those. With my first batch, I used regular bread yeast because that's all I had, and it was still very good. Okay, so I'm going to get into a disclosure. If you're under 21, please do not do this. Please do your own research on the safety of any of this. To me, it was very safe. I did not get sick. If it smells like alcohol, it's probably alcohol. If it smells like vinegar, it's probably vinegar. And the reason this is going to turn to wine and not vinegar is the addition of the yeast. When you're making homemade vinegar, which we'll do another video at another time, you leave out the yeast. The sugar, it's going to seem like I'm using a whole lot of sugar, and I am. It is essential for the yeast to feed on to create the alcohol. So don't leave out this step. We're gonna start with our cranberry, and we're gonna start by just emptying out 2 cups because we're gonna replace it with 2 cups of sugar, and we're gonna put that to the side, and we're not gonna throw that out. I'm going to take my 2 cups of juice, and I'm gonna put that aside into another container. And now I'm going to do 2 cups of sugar. So we've got a little bit extra room. We don't want to fill it to the very tip top. So I'm taking some of the cranberry juice that I poured off. And we want to leave a little bit of head space because we are going to shake it up and we want to get air in there. So I'm going to use 1 packet of this. I got off Amazon. I'll link it below. And this says it's 0.176 ounces. You can use a teaspoon or half a teaspoon for this container. For this size container, which is 64 ounces, I would use half a teaspoon of yeast if you're using bread yeast or any yeast. If I was going to do the great big container, this jug is family size and it is 96 ounces. I will use a full teaspoon of yeast for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. And then I'm just going to put the lid back on and screw it real tight because I'm getting ready to shake it like crazy. This makes me happy. This is fun. It will explode if you do not loosen this lid. So I'm going to very gently and slowly loosen that lid. And so when I put it away, I'm going to put it in a dark place for about a week. And for the first couple days, you can come up and give it a good shake, and that will help by introducing the oxygen into it. But I'm just going to leave it in a dark cupboard in my garage with this very loose, and I'm going to come check on it every single day. The first day or 2, I'm going to give it a really good shake, get some bubbles moving through it, but then I'm going to leave this very loosely on. Now you will see some people use airlocks, and those are great, and we'll use one for our big jug at the end just because it's new. I have not used this yet. I just did it without. My first batch I did without. I just kept the cap on loose, and once in a while I'd come in and burp it once a day, but left the cap very loose so that it could burp itself. Otherwise you will end up with a big explosion and you will hate me. But don't, because I warned you. So I'm just going to repeat this process. I'm going to pour out 2 cups of cranberry juice. I'm going to put in 2 cups of sugar. I'm going to stir it. I'm going to pour it back into its bottle with one of these little packets of yeast. And then I'm going to continue on, and when I get to the big jug, the great big jug of grape, I am going to still use the 1 packet of yeast because I could have got away with half a packet of this, but I will add 3 cups of sugar for that instead of 2. And then at the end, all I'm going to do is to add all the leftover juices into this big jug. I'm gonna call it a fruit punch. Fruit punch wine. Okay, so we've got one cranberry out the way, and I'm gonna move that so I don't get confused, which I do very easily. And so I'm gonna pour this into here. This is another cranberry. And one thing I forgot to tell you when we got started is I did start off, of course my containers are sterile enough because I'm putting the wine back in there to ferment. The jug I wash really good with hot soapy water. You can see my little beagle walking by. The utensils too. You want to have a clean environment to ferment so you don't get anything funky in there. Although if you do get anything funky in there, this is hopefully, if you do everything right, is going to turn to alcohol and kill anything. So that's why it makes it like a really easy fermentation process. So I want to show you something real quick. I got this carboy and it came with this airlock and this piece here. So I'm going to use this. The other bottles, like I said, I'm going to leave the tops barely on and come and burp them every day. Do not forget to do that or you will be sorry. This piece just fits in here and I've never used this before. And again, my last batch turned out great. And then just put this in here. And what this is going to do is keep air out while letting the gases come off of the fermenting process. So this will make it easier. I know this one's not going to explode. So if you want to get those, I will link those below. So now all that's left is for me to rinse off the outside of these jugs. I made a huge mess, spilling little bits that are sticky on the side. So I'm going to rinse them off real good. I am going to give them one last real vigorous shake. Make sure the cap is loose when I put it up. I'm going to put it up in a dark cupboard, preferably a warm, dark cupboard, and I'll see you back in about a week. So it has been, after 7 days of my wine sitting in its little juice container in that dark closet, I tightened this top up because I wanted to know when it was basically done fermenting. And then at the end of like 12 hours, I came by to see if I heard a whoosh. And I did. So I tightened them all back up and I would check them every day. And now it's day 10 and they're not having as much gas come out of them anymore. I'm not having to burp them. So they are ready for step 2. Now we are not going to fully rack these wines into nice wine bottles. This is just, we're going to end on step 2 where it is drinkable because we are trying to keep this simple. So I did want to say I tried the, as you can see, the pineapple is pretty far down. I tried that, it was delicious. I really didn't have high hopes that it would be good, but oh my gosh. So for step 2, we have our juice. Our yeast is done eating the sugar out of the juice. So most of that sugar has been eaten and turned into alcohol, and the sediment will sit at the bottom. So the step 2 is sort of this clarification process. So I have here a clean carboy. You can use any kind of container, a mason jar or a wine bottle, whatever, but I'm using this. Gently poured off the top of the wine and left as much of the sediment in the bottom, and then I let it sit again for a day, and then I did the same thing. So that works. You don't want to, this is just yeast byproduct waste. You don't want to drink that. So now you will have a clearer product than what you started with. Then I'm just going to cap it off and mix it up because I mixed 2 kinds, and then I am going to enjoy a glass, and it is really good. Cheers to us for learning a new skill. Thanks for watching. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.